Okay, guys, so it's being recorded from now on. And thank you very much, guys, for coming. I'm really excited. And before we start the webinar, I just want to say that this webinar has been organized by the Weekly Fasting Group. It's a very big international WhatsApp group of individuals who want to practice abstinence from food for at least 24 hours every week at a certain time. So we do it as a group between Friday and Saturday. And there are also people who extend it. We also have our Friday webinars where we invite leading specialists in the fields of healing, spirituality, nutrition, other things related to full and rich life. And my name is Arik. So, and you will, if you are watching this video later on, you will find my contact details below this video. So you will find my WhatsApp number, and you are welcome to send me a message with your name, and I will happily add you to this group if those ideas appeal to you. And in between, we also, in the chat of the group, we also discuss different subjects related to health, spirituality, and other things. So, I'm especially excited now because it's virtually the first time that I am not going to lead this webinar. So our friend Karen is going to lead it. So I can just sit back and relax. And it's kind of, I'm not used to that during those webinars. But I told Karen that I'm here if she needs any help. And today we have a very special guest, Kasia, but I guess Karen will present her better than me. So Karen, over to you.
Thank you, Arik. Lovely introduction. So yeah, it's with great pleasure that I'm going to introduce a lovely, beautiful lady. Her name is Kasia, and she's briefly written an introduction, which I'm going to read, which basically Kasia supports health and spiritual seekers to heal naturally and transform their lives with holistic detox, whole fresh fruits, living with the laws of nature, water fasting, and inner guidance. Kasia is the administrator of the Pranic Living Facebook community and offers guidance and joyful transitioning into living in integrity and unity on the new high dimensional planet Earth. So with that, I'm going to introduce Kasia, and she will start us off with an inner guidance process. So over to you, Kasia.
Thank you so much. I'm going to express once again my great really gratitude for being here to co-create this wonderful experience. We don't know obviously how it's going to unfold, but that's the beauty of the unknown. I'm going to just let it flow and happen in the natural way as everything happens in nature, because we are part of nature. So that short meditation practice, what I call inner guidance, it might take maybe slightly longer than 5 minutes. But it's not going to be long. It's going to be a short practice. So for that short practice, I'm going to ask you maybe first, just make sure that you are sitting in a comfortable way. Your body is just relaxed. It will be easier also to focus and concentrate when you close your eyes, as we want to really just leave the external world just for that practice. So please close your eyes. I will probably close my eyes as well, because I find it easier as well to focus. And please take a really nice, relaxing breath, just in a natural way that that feels comfortable to you. We know that very often when we enter a temple, sometimes even a yoga center, we tend to take off our shoes. So for this short practice, I'm going to ask you, instead of taking off your shoes, just leave your mind on the side just for that short guidance. You might perhaps say that, well, this is just not really possible because the thinking process will go on. Let's maybe agree that we are not going to take it very seriously. If anything comes up that is related to mind, just set the intention that you are going to just let it pass, the same as you would do when you watch a cloud in the sky. And express your intention that just for the next few minutes, you're going to leave aside everything that you have experienced in the past, everything that you remember, you've learned so far, any conditioning, anything that really came to you during this lifetime, because we won't need that for this short guidance. And please do the same with all your future plans, any visions, anything you thought of doing, experiencing. Just leave this aside for the next few minutes. And please take another nice relaxing breath in a slow and very natural way. And please focus now entirely on your body. Just bring all your attention in your body. So now, despite the fact that you've left all your mind, everything that is related to the past or future, you know that you still exist. You are still here. You are aware of your senses and the space that you are. This is something that doesn't really have any name. That pure aspect of who we really are, it's indescribable. It doesn't have any shape, any color. It doesn't have any age. It doesn't even have any beginning or an end. That pure aspect of us, it's like space. That space, it's always available to you anytime. This is where you align with your pure self. That which is immortal, it's infinite. It always exists. Never comes, never goes. It's not like all our thoughts, emotions, they come and they go. They just simply pass. They are just temporary experiences, like most of the things we experience in this lifetime. But that pure aspect of who you really are always exists. It's always there. This is where you find all the inner guidance that you could possibly need in your life, in all aspects of your life. Please focus now on your heart. And feel that space within, that profound, deep space that cannot be compared to anything else. In that pure space, you are always complete. You are always happy. This is where you feel balanced, in harmony. You are that pure awareness, pure light, pure love, abundance, freedom. This is your natural state. Please feel that. That's who you really are. That's the pure, divine self that you always are. Thank you. Whenever you feel ready, please open your eyes.
Thank you, Kasia.
Thank you.
That was beautiful. So I have a few questions listed down to ask you. So we'll start with you promote the pranic living and fruit-based lifestyle. So what initiated your interest and curiosity into living this different lifestyle? When did it happen and how did it happen?
That's a great question. Thank you. So it was a gradual process for me. Just a slow way of evolving. That's probably how I would call it. It started with challenges, with health challenges. And what I've learned from my experiences that it's really what we experience that give us the profound understanding. This is really the wonderful way of learning. So that was my experience as well. And the first experience that it really was quite a big thing for me. It was discovering, becoming really aware, realizing literally one day that I was addicted to sugar. And it was a big thing for me because I could see in that moment that I was controlled. I was completely possessed by sugar not being aware of that totally. It was ruling my life for so many years, and I adapted that. That was the normal I knew at that time and for many years. And when I had that realization, in that moment, I understood that I'm not free. And freedom was always the top value for me. And literally in that moment, I decided no more, and I stopped. And from that moment, I started more aware life. I would say I started to be more curious, more questioning. So that was really the process, and then later on, I've decided to go fully. First, it was plant-based, but very soon after that, I was naturally drawn. Like that's how my body was guiding me to start and eating fully raw. This was never really my intention that I would decide one day that's what I'm going to do. No, it was just a very slow, very natural way of evolving into that lifestyle. Many experiences obviously on the way, many health issues. So I'm not going to really list all of them because there were many. It was maybe I'm just going to mention a few just to give some example. So anxiety was quite a big thing for me for literally probably as long as I remember, but for many years I wasn't aware of that totally. It was just all I knew. But I remember many nights I could not sleep at all because the mind could not switch off. Like literally, I could not even sleep for 5 minutes. And then it was, my health was basically deteriorating. As I was changing the lifestyle, I could see obviously improvements, but for many years it was just going down. So I hit quite deep depression at some point, which was also a big, really experience for me. It was like living in darkness, basically. But then I could see obviously how everything was changing. And I was relying for some reason, this was not something that I would read somewhere. It was some deeper knowing within me that there is something. I could not really explain this or even describe this with words, but there was something and still is. It's just becoming clearer, obviously, now that we are unlimited beings, that there is something within us that really wants to express that potential. And that was something that could never let me just remain in the same place. It was just this, almost I would call it like a desire to find out more, to experience more, to explore. And I was always open to new experiences. Like there was something absolutely fascinating. And I remember, so that was the same way I evolved into eating fruits, just how my body was guiding me. And when I noticed that, it was a process again, because the old habits were still very strong, even the way I was shopping. So I would always buy at least small bunch of carrots or maybe beetroots. That were really the two last vegetables I was buying a few years ago. But then I've noticed that I'm actually not eating them. I didn't feel like even eating them at all. Like I would look at them, but they were not speaking to me in any way. So eventually I stopped buying because I thought there is no point to do that. So when I first heard of the pranic living lifestyle, this was many years ago, and I remember the very first, I was actually in France at that time in the summer visiting someone. And this is where I found out. And I remember when I first heard that, this sounded to me like something rather abstract. But I was wondering, I was kept repeating that question, how would that be possible? I was trying to imagine what it would be like how would they live actually not eating? And that was something that remained within me. There was something I could not forget. And it went over years like this. And a few years ago, I was guided to actually approach that lifestyle. It was an amazing experience, such a profound and deep that it cannot be explained again with words. It was beyond words, just really indescribable. But after that initial process, because that's what I experienced at the beginning, I started to notice that my body was really rejecting that. There was obviously, I was experiencing lots of emotions coming up. They were extremely present to that extent that I ended up many times with overeating, and really, I'm going to actually call this binging, because that's what it was. That was something completely new to me, and I've never experienced anything like this before. So eventually, I've noticed that what I was doing, it was not natural to my body. It didn't feel basically right at that time to go with something like this. So slowly, I just evolved again to eating fruits. And after some time, it just became clear. I understood why. There were also certain things, and I'm not going to go into details because I feel there's no need for that. But certain practices basically weren't natural. And this is something I would never do now, because I know this is not how the human body functions, including the way we breathe, for example, and even the way we consume certain foods. So that was a great realization, because at least I knew that this is not really the way to experience that. But the experience of that, it was absolutely just remarkable, like something really, really profound and unique. So now I feel that my body is again guiding me in that direction, but in a completely different way, with a completely different approach.
Okay, can I just interrupt briefly? So you said that you followed like a pranic living lifestyle process. Was that with a teacher, or?
Yes.
It was. And so was you did one of these where they initiate you for like 9 days or 21 days?
Yes, that was shorter, but that's exactly how it worked. Yes.
And then how long did you actually carry on with the lifestyle?
For about 3 months, if I remember correctly, like not in a way that I would not eat, but it was mostly juices at that time.
Okay,
So
cool.
very, very sort of light smoothies.
Yeah, and it just didn't resonate with you at the time by the sounds of it, and because emotional things were coming up and then creating sort of a worst case scenario where you would go into binge eating and overeating. So I can completely relate. So when you had you always been interested in a spiritual lifestyle or spiritual subjects before your lifestyle change?
Yes, there was something always. It was just my state really of being. That's probably how I would describe that. There was always something just deep within me, like really aligning with that sort of deeper sense of being. Yeah, there was always something that I think that's what I've mentioned before. I could not really explain that because that was, and I could see also in my family, like I was the only one, like different from all my family. So it felt a bit strange because I could not speak to anyone and I didn't feel comfortable even to be open to say anything because I felt that maybe it was just only me feeling really that way. It was only when I started to grow up and I just realized, well, it's probably not only me. But that was like even being a child, this wasn't easy.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you had a very strong inner knowing, even as a child. It wasn't like a sudden epiphany as you got older. It was something that was with you.
Yeah, it was always there, like probably since I ever remember. There was something like I had this sort of inner life almost.
Yeah.
That's how I would describe it, that the external world wasn't really, it was interested in a way, but there was something like I would always look for places where I could be by myself. I loved it even as a child. I was escaping sometimes from my family because I come from a big family, and sometimes I was escaping to places where I could just be with myself. I loved it. Like the attic of the house was one of the places. I absolutely love it.
Wow, that is so interesting. And so, did you read books, or did you follow any specific teachers at any point?
I did read lots of books, particularly in my younger age. That's probably how I describe it. Yes, I was literally like there were many books that sometimes I would read even until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Like sometimes I would start a book and I could not leave it. I could not go to sleep. Yes, so I was absorbing books probably at that time. That was the source that was available because obviously there was no internet.
Yeah.
So whenever I could find something that resonated with me, I would definitely read. And that's really how I expanded slowly.
Yeah. And so, are there any teachers specifically that stuck with you?
I can't really see any names. I can't feel any names coming. Like there was like I mean, there was actually one book later on, and I remember that book. I was almost like studying for some time because I was commuting actually to work. And I remember but that was for some time. And then I felt that I've completed that chapter and I just moved on. So that was the book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. So that was like, I remember I had this book with me in my bag and I would just open. And I remember exactly the way it worked. Like I would just open randomly on a page. And that was a passage, something that it was like literally perfect. The timing for me to actually read it. That's how I would just explore that book, like rereading again. And after some time, I felt there was something else coming.
Yeah. Oh wow, that is so interesting. It is interesting. Okay, so when you were growing up, and prior to obviously you moving towards the raw food lifestyle, what type of diet did you grow up with?
It was just a standard diet. So my family, I come originally from Poland. My family had a farm with animals. So they were growing all kinds of vegetables and wheat, grass, and animals. So it was just the standard diet, just the lifestyle that people would live basically in the countryside.
And like 3 meals a day.
Oh, yes, or sometimes more. Like it was eating basically like whenever. Obviously, we always had breakfast, dinner, and so it was slightly different. It was breakfast, dinner was really at lunchtime, and then we would call supper in the evening. But we would have also like we called second breakfast, and then we would have this snack or like this light meal after the lunchtime and then before the evening meal. So there was like food was basically always available.
Wow. And yeah, and okay, so that's interesting too. Actually,
If I can just add something, because just regarding the previous question about the teachers, obviously that was later on, not early in my life, but that was probably one of the latest teachers, and I can definitely call teachers, because it was really profound for me several years ago. And it was Ramana Maharshi's teaching.
Right.
And if I could recommend now, this is what I share sometimes, like even I shared recently posts, I really feel that this is the profound teaching.
Okay.
That really meant a lot to me. It was mostly, I haven't actually read his books, but I don't know if there are even books published, but definitely there are many recordings available on YouTube. And this is what I was absorbing for some time. It was like every day. And that was probably just the most beautiful teaching that I've experienced in life.
Wow. And how long ago was that then?
A few years ago, maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Lovely. And that just made you go deeper into into understanding who you really are.
Yeah, and really start practicing what he basically calls the self-inquiry. I mean, this is so beautiful, so powerful.
Yeah.
And it really changes everything.
So yeah, so my next question's got to be, what does the self-inquiry include?
It's really quite observing and questioning absolutely everything. It requires to be present really in this moment, because in fact there isn't anything else that we ever experience in life. Life only happens in this moment now. This is the infinite now. What we call the past or the future is just the imagination of the mind. It's not real. It's really truly like reading a story. So that moment that we are co-creating right now, it always exists. That moment never ends, never starts, never ends. So when we are fully in the now, in this moment, when we are really aware of the body, the thoughts that come to us, the emotions, like whatever activities we are involved in, particularly when thoughts arrive or emotions, it's great to ask, so who is actually observing that thought? And who is the observer? Where is that observer? Whenever we are challenged by anything, if we feel that something brings some emotions, this is a perfect opportunity to question, where is this actually coming from? Who is this? Who is experiencing this? Is that really the pure aspect of who I am? Or is it maybe another part? Because we confuse the mind for who we really are. We even took that belief that the body, the physical body, that's who we are. The very probably common word that we tend to say, it's I. But who is this I? Is that the self? Is that the real self? Or is it like the false self? So we can question everything, but it's very important to observe and not to interpret, not to judge in any way. It's literally like observing clouds in the sky. When we sit and when we look at clouds in the sky, we don't interpret them, we don't judge them, we'll just look at them. But what is extremely helpful is, particularly when we experience thoughts and emotions, is to really question, so who is experiencing this? But also to learn why that emotion is coming to us. What is really behind that emotion? What the emotion is communicating with us? Because all emotions, they communicate with us. They're very helpful if we know how to approach them. It's the same like the mind. The mind is a very useful tool, but it's only a tool. It's like having a sharp knife. If we have a sharp knife, sometimes it can be very useful, but we know it can be used also to create a lot of harm. So if we know how to use the mind when we need it and the way it's needed, that's great. But when we don't need it, it's the same like with the sharp knife, we put it aside. The same what I asked you at the beginning, just to put your mind aside, because for that practice, the mind was not needed at all. And when we experience anything in the external world, particularly when we're exposed to certain, what I call noise, because the external world really creates a lot of noise. And this is not natural. This is not the natural state that we are. So when we switch off from that external surroundings and the busyness, and when we really go within, this is where we experience joy and bliss and happiness. And this is the natural state that we always are.
And can you operate from there in the world? Can you go to work in that state? Or that's, yeah, I guess that's my question, is how can you live your life in your day-to-day life? Connect. Yeah.
I mean, this is the way I'm living my life now. Of course, it's not that I'm 100% in that state all the time, but mostly, yes. So I don't engage with the external world apart from what I need to. Like I'm completely switched off from any news, like literally in any possible way. This was my intention. And so that doesn't mean that we need to isolate ourselves from the external world. No, this is not needed. it just requires to mentally just leave that word to its own life, just the way it is, and just focus in our own life. So the way I'm living my life now, of course, I don't go to work to some offices because I mostly work from home. So I agree that this probably is a lot easier. But I did work before, probably not being in that consciousness yet. So of course it was different. But just living that way now, it's just such an amazing experience that, again, I cannot find words to describe that because everything flows. I rely totally on my inner guidance. And I really mean that in all aspects of life. Starting from my health and going through all the aspects that we could possibly be involved in life. This is just the way, my natural way, and that's the way it really resonates with me, and it really works. It works also, yeah.
So what would a typical day look like in your lifestyle then?
Yeah, so I would, when I wake up, this is where the inner guidance begins for me. Everything literally flows to me without even asking. It's literally arriving. Sometimes I don't even plan the next day because I know the plan is going to basically come. And sometimes if I plan and in the morning I receive the guidance and I know, well, it's going to slightly different way. So immediately I know I'm going to go with that. I usually receive the early hours in the morning. I find, like for many years, I find that those are like the pure sacred times in the morning when the world is still very quiet, when there's not much busyness, and everything just flows with such beauty and easiness and joy. So I receive the guidance, which I also receive during the day. Like I don't need to sit and go into this kind of practice. I did this at the beginning for some time because it really helped me to get into that, like even learn that. Now this just happens. Like I can be involved in something and suddenly I'm receiving this pure clarity, pure awareness. And that happens literally in everything. The way I create the posts that I share, literally everything. If I ever feel that there's the clarity, there's something lacking, I just leave it and I don't rush with anything. Because there's no needs basically for anything. So whatever I need in life at any particular stage, it literally comes to me. It comes to me to the way that even the way this project that it's available, the pranic living and the online support that I offer, I don't advertise anything. I'm literally available on a few platforms, and this is all. So I'm available to so people who want to connect with me, they can find me. But I don't do anything to find them. People just come to me, and that's how everything works, and literally in all aspects.
Wow, so interesting. So I guess I should open it up a little bit to anybody else who's on the call and see if anybody has any questions at this stage.
Wonderful.
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Hello, Rosa. Revital. Feel free to ask away.
Thank you. Hello, Kasia, right?
Yes, yes.
I wanted to ask, you started talking about the fact that you had sort of a regression binging because of emotional issues. So could you please talk about that? Like what really happened and how did you deal with it? I mean, what emotions came up and caused you to binge, and how did you deal with it? And then you said that you solved it. And
yes, thank you. Yeah, that's a great question. This was a process for me. It was something new. It was a new experience, as I mentioned. So first, I was really surprised, and just to be completely honest, I didn't know really how to approach it, because that person in that program that I've mentioned, he didn't really help, to be honest. Like, he didn't know really how to approach that properly. So I felt that I had to find my own way and solution for that. So at the beginning, I ended up actually really in that binging, which ended up, it was to such extent that it was like really difficult physically. It was difficult for the body. There was a lot of fear, I remember. Fear was really present there. And I had this feeling that suddenly I'm missing something, that there's something not available, that I might not be able to eat. It was this kind of huge fear. And at that time, at the beginning, as I mentioned, I didn't know what to do. So that kept repeating. But then slowly I started to work actually with the emotions and really observe them. And that was really the solution. I asked actually someone to help me with that. That was really helpful, because I could find out what the emotions were actually communicating with me. So there were some past experiences that were related to that directly, related to fear. There were lots of things that I didn't accept basically with myself. It was just the lack of acceptance. At that stage, particularly when I was early, like, I never really felt, I was sort of a bit sort of person that would go one way or another. Like, I didn't have this self-belief in myself. I didn't feel probably worthy in some way. That's probably how I would describe it as well. But there was also something, at that stage, I really became aware of that I've never really experienced being loved in my life. And that showed up in a huge way and in many ways. So this was really opening to me, because it opened something new to that point that I had to explore actually for a longer time. To really, there were many layers of that. Like, one layer I would clear, and there was something else coming up, like many ways. So that was a huge thing for me, and it was very closely related to food, actually. That helped me realize that it started so early in my life. It actually started when I literally arrived on this planet, that I didn't feel basically loved in my life. So what happened in my case, I associated food with love. So whenever I was being fed as a baby, this is where I felt that I was receiving that love. So for me, food basically equaled love. And I grew up with this, not being completely aware of that. So when suddenly that food was not available, there was huge fear appearing.
Isn't it the case of everyone, actually?
I think it is.
It's not so unique, apparently.
Yes, so it took some time to work on that because, as I've mentioned, there were many layers of that.
So you worked with someone, with a specialist or something.
Yes, it was someone who used, in that Pranic Living Association, yes, but then later on, someone who helped me actually to work with the emotions. It was someone who used a certain modality to really release, like identify the emotions, find out, like recognize what it is, what is related, what was communicating, and really integrate that. So as a result, I could just release this.
Wow, interesting. Very interesting. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Namaste, Kasia. Nice to talk to you.
Lovely, yeah.
I'm humble enough to say that you mentioned Ramana Maharshi. I was born in the same town that he was born.
How amazing is that?
Yeah, I was been to this ashram several times, and we have a prayer group in the city where I live. I live in US now. So we have a prayer group. We meet multiple times in a week. We practice the self-inquiry. Who am I? So that's what we practice every single time we meet. Now, my question to you is, I was reading the introduction that Karen sent out. There are a couple of phrases that caught my attention. You said rediscovering our true nature. Could you please elaborate? You are talking about the self, the who am I that you discovered. Is it what you mean, or is something else you mean?
Yes, yeah. There are different words because there's no really word to describe that. Like even the self, it's just for the mind to understand. So probably the reason that I use sometimes this description, there are only words, like nothing else, just only words. And that's really what I meant exactly. Sometimes I feel that the way I only use this for, the only reason I use it that way is to explain for the mind to understand that when something really resonates with us, like it feels so natural, it's obviously something deep within us that it's aligning, like how we really feel. Yeah, there are different words. Sometimes I say, the divine self, like they're just words, but that's exactly what it means. Like another way of saying the self. Yes.
One more thing, you mentioned emotional eating. So what exactly do you mean by emotional eating?
Emotional eating, yeah. So that happens when we would eat first too much than the body requires. We would eat quite often when we feel unhappy, stressed, there is something not comfortable. We feel maybe alone. There could be many emotions. And just to feel better, we would reach out basically for food. Many people do this, not very often, not knowing, not being aware of that. So as a result of that, we are really feeding the emotions because the physical body actually doesn't need that. And in fact, it might only give us the feeling just for that short duration, but then afterwards we are not able to really fulfill that, whatever the emotion is. So we end up really feeding the emotions, not resolving them, and just basically poisoning the body, because the body really doesn't need that food. The body,
How do we fix that?
only for the physical body.
Yeah. But how do we fix that situation? You know, I see what you're saying. I can relate to it, but how do we fix that? You know.
Yeah. So the way that it really works is before we. This is what I recommend. It really worked for me, and I know also it worked for other people as well. So before we go for that food, I would just stop, like literally stop, and just bring all my awareness in my body. And I would ask, and I would really sit with that for a moment, like switch off from the external noise, like be in that moment. And I would ask the question, is this really what my body needs right now? Because the food is for the body. We can literally communicate with the body. When we really become aware of how the body works, how it communicates with us, because the body is communicating with us all the time. It's just our mind takes us on all kinds of journeys, yeah? When we are in the body, we can have literally conversation with the body. I really mean that. You can ask that question, and that emotion will come up stronger. This is a perfect opportunity, just perfect timing to follow that emotion, where that emotion actually is coming from. Like, what is really that emotion? Because the emotion will communicate also something. What is communicating with us? If there's there are certain emotions, we can also ask, where did I actually experience this for the first time in my life? And that information will come. Sometimes, quite often, it will be something from our childhood or very early age. So instead of actually reaching out for that particular food, I would basically work with that emotion. So that requires really observation, the self-inquiry really, and just following like where this is going, not analyzing the emotion, but really communicating like what is really revealing to you, what is really behind. If you find out that the emotion is so strong that you actually end up eating this, and you are aware that this is not something that is really supportive for your body, I would still observe that after you eat, like when you eat, during the time when you eat, and after also when you eat, like how you feel afterwards, how your body is responding to that, because your body will be communicating with you all the time. I would observe that. So you are not going to repeat that pattern, because if we just end up going and feeding that emotion, we are going to keep repeating the same pattern over and over again. And this is where we can see that's where most people are. They just remain in the same place for a reason.
Perfect. I have one more question about this is about your program. Should I ask now or should I reserve it for the later time, Karen?
Sorry. Yeah. Well, he has a question about the program, your
Yes.
90-day program. So shall we go into that later on towards the end?
I'm good with that. I'm good either way.
Okay, we'll bring you back in.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So is there anybody else that would like to ask a question? You may need to unmute.
Hi, my name is Aranka. Hi.
there.
So pranic living for her is basically eating as she desires. And she said she was addicted to sweets, so she switched to fruit. So what changed? She's still eating fruit. She's still eating sweets. So how does that transform into a pranic living? Thank you.
So someone, could you maybe just read that again, please, so I can really get the details. Would you be able to read that?
Hi, Kasia. I just wanted to know, we started asking you about your daily routine. So we wanted to know what you do. You said you were addicted to sweets, and then you, instead of eating commercial, switched to fruit. So basically nothing much changed. Yes. Why would you call it a pranic living?
Yeah, so that was many years ago. In fact, it was 2004, so 18 years ago, probably. So when I stopped eating the sugary snacks, I replaced them basically with fruits. That was my solution. And over the years, the pranic living is really the last experiences in the last few years. So that was a process really to evolve into that awareness. That's really how I would call it, to be in that awareness where your body is guiding you and you become aware that you actually don't require a lot of physical food. In fact, we don't require physical food. Most people still eat because we are at that awareness where we are still programmed in some way that we need that physical food. And that's absolutely fine, because that should be just the normal way for us. If we feel we want to really evolve into that, that really is the natural way. It's not really a huge jump. So the prana energy is something that it is within us anyway. We are just not aware of that. Like all the plants, all the fruits, they absorb the prana energy. The prana energy is present also in our bodies. It's everywhere in entire existence, and we are part of that existence. It's just becoming more aware of what actually that body really requires. And the more aware we become, the less actually of the physical food we require. So it started, so like for me, the process really started with discovering the sugary addiction. Then there were other like salt addiction and food addiction as well. But that was the first step. And it was just the process of really evolving into that. I don't know if that answered my question.
So basically you're still eating whenever you feel like it, right?
Yes, I'm still eating, but less and less.
Okay.
And I just feel this is also the inner guidance that I receive. This is what I received some time ago, because I've asked actually that question. I was curious, like what is really the natural way, like what my divine self would like to actually experience in this human life on this planet. And the answer that I received, the guidance, is that in this lifetime, I still would like to experience certain fruits, but not for the sake of eating, but just tasting them. So it's more like enjoying the smells, the fragrance of flowers. I'm actually drawn to certain, like the sense of smell was probably always the most evolved for me, always since I ever remember, to all kind of fragrances and smells. And now I noticed that already, that even looking at certain fruits, smelling them, sometimes it's literally all it's needed. And it's more really tasting them than actually eating. And for this can be also misleading in many ways for people, because at least that's the experience maybe I have, that quite a few people assume for some reason that pranic living means no food at all. I think we have a choice. This is the freedom that we can choose to eat. We can choose not to eat. This is really our choice. But we can decide whenever we feel we want to just taste that particular fruit or not. But we don't have that desire, the need that we need to eat every day. So this is completely different. And I think this is really the way I feel that we have the freedom, like we have the freedom of choice.
And it's lovely that we do, but then you really widened the meaning and the definition of pranic living, correct?
Yes, that's how I would that's how I would approach basically pranic living. That's the way it feels natural to me and supportive.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, anthropology supports it, fruit eating and whatnot, but I thought there was a movement out there that all food is destroying the body, is getting you closer to aging.
Yeah. So this is what I feel, that it's really supportive. So we are not following anyone blindly what someone is doing, because I really don't feel this is supportive. But when I really rely on the inner guidance, I know that this is something that I want to basically experience in this lifetime. This might change later on. That doesn't mean that it's going to be for the rest of my life. But at this stage, that was the guidance I received. I'm very happy with that. I love even the colors of the fruits. I can buy literally a few of them. That's all really that is needed.
Okay, so pranic living thanks, Aranka. Pranic living in your mind then is freedom. So freedom from the drives that and the emotions that impulse us to eating certain foods, whereas you're in a position now with all the work that you've done. Sorry, Aranka, are you still wanting to talk?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, Karen, you're not free of the emotions. You didn't get rid of the emotions. You just clarified that that one will not satisfy, and you found another outlet to do it. So your emotions are still there.
I don't know.
You were saying that you basically experience freedom, but what kind of freedom is there if the items are still there? Your emotions are still there. They're still playing a game on you.
Well, that was my question. My next question was whether or not Kasia actually consciously chooses to eat but it actually has the choice, whereas most of us, either detox symptoms or emotions, are running the show. So I guess my question is, Kasia, is whether you feel that you're free, that you could choose either or.
Yes, Yes, but it feels more natural to me, and that really what resonates at this stage. Like that was the guidance I received, that at this stage, this is what my soul wants to experience. That it's one of the things that I wanted basically to experience on this planet. Like just enjoy it, because we want to also enjoy this lifestyle and also what is available on this planet. And if we have the choice, like this is my choice now. There is something that really resonates with me, but in a way that when I feel I want to have that experience, that's great. But if not, I don't need to.
Yeah, that's so that is, to me, that's a pranic lifestyle, is where you have that freedom from habits and emotional patterns and programming, that you can make a decision to choose what you consume. And if you want to consume, there's no reason why you shouldn't. I personally, my own personal experience has been that the lighter I've experienced dry fasting, and I definitely wasn't really ready for dry fasting, because then I've gone to water fasting, and I found that water is much easier on my system. I'm still detoxing big time, cleaning out my body and getting various symptoms, but I have definitely found that I can actually, my current lifestyle is like 2 days water fasting, and then 2 days of just like a small hour of eating, very much. Yeah. So, and I feel better on my water fasting days than I do on my eating days. I just feel freer and lighter. But like you say, everybody's path is different. So
yes, absolutely. I mean, let me respond to what you've just shared, because I feel that this is really important, that I totally understand about the dry fasting. That was my experience as well, several years ago. My body wasn't really clean enough to go for that experience of dry fasting. So not only from my own experience, but I could really observe this as well with other people, that unless we still have toxicity in the body, it's a lot more supportive to actually drink plenty of water and just allow the old heart build up to soak, to rehydrate, so the body can finally eliminate it. And I think when the body is clean enough, it will be ready naturally to adapt that however we call it, dry fasting, or I would not even call it dry fasting. I would just simply call it more, this pranic living, so that we stay basically for some time not consuming anything, because the body basically doesn't need anything.
okay.
Kasia, can I ask something?
Of course.
Yeah, so I have two questions that are unrelated to each other. So first question is, how does your average food and liquid intake look like now, like has been looking like in the last few months or few weeks or something like that? So if you could answer that, and then I will ask you another question.
Yes, so I've noticed that even like the fruits that I was eating, that the body basically didn't need that. So I'm still in that process of reducing. Like now it feels more natural, like having just once a day, and just less and less. I'm still drinking water because I still feel that there is still some toxicity in my body, and it's basically helping me. So I'm going very slowly, but there are days when I don't feel like eating. It just doesn't feel like the body is communicating very clearly. Like I would look even at some of the fruits and I would just not resonate with any of them. The answer for me, well, my body just doesn't want to experience any of those today. Yeah. And that's great. That's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So, for example, if we take the last 7 days from the last Friday until now, so would you say that you had one fruit meal on average, like every day, more or less, or how did it go, for example, in the last week?
Yes, on some days, like I pay attention to how I combine fruits. Particularly the three main groups, when we have the acid fruits, the sub-acid fruits, and the sweet fruits. I hardly actually consume any sweet fruits because they are too dry for me. They don't sort of feel natural to me anymore. Some of them, like I bought actually this week figs. They just appeared literally new, so I bought them. But like I cannot eat bananas. Like my body refused bananas. So I don't even buy those fruits. So now it's a bit easier, but sometimes still I prefer to have like one fruit, for example, just one fruit. Like it would be I don't know, a grapefruit. Like grapefruit, for example, is a fruit that I would just gladly have one grapefruit, and that's all.
So you mean one piece, right? One piece of grapefruit a day, or in terms of the amount?
Yeah. So, for example, like yesterday, I had one grapefruit, and then I would leave 2 hours or 3 hours, and then I would have like another fruit later, like early evening, and that was all. I still drink water, just simply for the reason, more water, simply for the reason because I feel there's still some toxicity in my body that needs to be released. So I want to really support my body, help it, so that it will be just easier.
Very interesting. So if I got it right, so your average the intake of food, it's like just few pieces of fruit a day, like either in one meal or with a difference of few hours, like 2 grapefruits, or what other fruits do you like to eat?
So I go very much seasonal. Like in the summer, the season ends now for watermelon, but I absolutely loved watermelon. It's like eating water, basically.
Yeah.
So watermelon was great. Other melons, but like maybe cantaloupe melons, the Gallia melons, but they were a bit big to me, to be honest. Like watermelon, I could buy a piece because they sell those big watermelons in pieces. Yeah. Sometimes the melons are a bit bigger. Like I love also pineapples, but I find that the big pineapples, they're a bit big to me. Because ideally, when I cut a fruit, I would not leave it open because they oxidize so quickly. I don't even have a fridge. Like for the almost 2 years,
wow,
I don't use a fridge because there's no need basically for a fridge.
Okay.
So like I would buy, a few basically fruits and just have them fresh.
Okay.
So I really enjoyed strawberries. Again, it's like eating water. Tomatoes, for example, really resonate. And sometimes I would add lettuces as well, just for, I don't know, variety for bit. It helps also with elimination. At least that's my experience, that if there's still some toxicity to eliminate, lettuce, soft, tender, just mild lettuce, it's helping in some way to sort of swipe, the intestines.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you very much. And
Thank you.
the other question is, if you had, did you have any periods of going like without food, without water, or just on water, like for prolonged periods of times, without losing any strength, without like like where you could really say that you live by prana, that you are not living, that you do not live by your own body resources, but you basically nourished by prana, so you do not lose any energy, you are bright, don't have any mind fog and stuff like that. So have you ever had this experience?
Absolutely, and I absolutely love them. I mean, they were amazing. Like, I could not describe using words again.
Mm-hmm.
I remember in those days particularly, like I experienced also, in terms of awareness, like being really in that consciousness on as being, for example, on water, but it's different. It's actually completely different. And I remember feeling just, I would say, even almost energized. Like I could really feel within there was something pure, very light. I remember some sunny days when I would spend almost the entire day in nature, like in parks, even sunbathing.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely loved it. And the fact that I didn't even think of any food, there's not even thinking of food as well at all.
Wow.
But experiencing what I would really describe like bliss. There was this happiness. Absolutely amazing. I mean, such beautiful and profound experiences. I remember particularly one experience when I was sitting in a park on a bench on one of those days.
Mm-hmm.
I had the feeling that everything stopped. There was this beautiful stillness. Like it was like experiencing purely the now. And I still remember that.
Amazing, amazing, Cassius. Thank you very much for sharing, and thank you very much for your honesty, for for your wisdom. Thank you so much. Now, what was your longest period of time that you went without food?
The longest was 5 days.
5 days, just drinking water, or without water as well?
With nothing. With water, I experienced 21 days.
Just on water.
Just on water. That was more really the reason of like being on a water fast. It was my intention to just go for that experience, just support my body so the body could cleanse and heal itself. And that was another absolutely amazing experience, such profound experience that it's beyond really any words.
Wow.
Every day was different, every day from start to finish.
Wow, amazing, amazing. And the last question, and then we will get back to Karen. Have you ever done any specific cleansing procedures, such as cleansing your intestines by enemas, by other means, cleansing your liver and other things?
So I have experienced those several years ago, but at some point I stopped because I became aware that enemas, they are not natural. They don't support the body. I've experienced, I mean, the list would be very long. I really, of all kind of remedies, those medicinal herbs, however we call them. I mean, there's so many, like literally,
Wow.
we would not be able to list them. And that happened over the years.
Mhm.
I actually had, let me maybe just respond in more detail on one of those things that you mentioned, enemas. I had experience with enemas for quite a long time, maybe even for about 10 years, 8 to 10 years, I can't remember exactly. Doing that on a regular way. But that actually never really helped, because I only learned later on that if we want to actually, that we are not actually cleansing anything with enema, we're only changing the pH level, which is obviously not helpful and not supportive. But if we want to really cleanse the body, it's actually the small intestine that really needs cleansing. And we can't reach that with enema. Like anatomically, this is simply impossible. And the only natural way, the intake, is through our mouth or our nose, or like however the body is naturally absorbing, but not the way around. Like rivers don't run reverse, yeah? So when I learned that this is not supportive, I stopped, and I never even thought about that again. But yes, I've experienced all kinds of things, but only to learn that the human body is self-maintaining, self-cleansing, self-killing organism. And when it's supported by the right, the optimal conditions, it knows best in its own intelligence how to clean itself. And this is the best we can do, really, to support the body, and the body knows really what to do and how to do. And this is the magic that happens, that we could never achieve with anything.
Amazing, very inspiring. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arik.
Okay, Karen, so please continue. Over to you.
Okay, thanks. So I would like to ask Kasia, are there any tips that you would offer to people that are just starting on this journey?
The one thing I would suggest, to go with any transition slowly, being kind, being gentle with yourself, not to judge, not to criticize anything that you are going to experience on the way, because when we take up anything new, it always requires learning. The same as we would learn how to read, how to write. We were learning at some point in our stage how to walk. It was a process. It took some time. It just didn't happen over 1 week. But also to explore, like be open to explore. And very important is to communicate with our body and observe how the body responds. Ask questions, ask the body the questions before we want to eat something. Like literally take a moment, be present in that moment, and just ask what kind of foods would be supportive for my body today. So that we are not going to go with the mind, but with the inner guidance. The inner guidance will guide us literally in all aspects. And just take time, really. enjoy it. It's very important to enjoy whatever we are experiencing. When we have those really supportive and the supportive energy, this is so important, because everything is information and we absorb that. So when we approach everything with joy, with flow, this is going to be supportive also for our body. And just take one step at a time. It's a lot easier for the mind as well to adapt, because in fact, for the body is a lot easier. It's the mind that very often is challenged. So the mind requires more work, more support than actually often the physical body.
Wow. Okay, that's fantastic. So if something negative or challenging comes up in your life, how would you approach it?
I don't actually experience such things, or I don't see them as anything like this, the way you describe, because the way I experience everything, if something comes that is, let's say, unexpected, it's somehow new, I would just look at it and just ask, so what is behind that for me? If I feel sometimes I would feel maybe like a bit of resistance, said, oh, so that's interesting. So what is this communicating to me? Is that the message that it's good for me to experience that, or maybe not? Because the fact that I feel some kind of resistance, obviously that's pure message. There is something behind. So I would observe that, I would question that, and I would ask for inner guidance, and the clarity arrives. I don't experience anything like stress. There's no even word like stress in my dictionary.
Oh, wow. And how has that been a process? Has that been something that...
Oh, yes, of course. This is not something that I literally just jumped and one day I started to live like this. No, it took some time. In fact, I'm going to be completely honest. It took a lot of really conscious work, commitment, focus, and just be like literally laser focused. Like I really invested into that, because that was so important for me to live in a way, because what I've mentioned, I've experienced most of my life, I've experienced living with anxiety. I knew what that meant so well. And I just wanted to experience life like feeling, this flow, this ease within. This was something I really wanted to experience. That's why I became aware at some point that the most important thing really for me to focus on in life, to invest, it's really to find out who I am and just really feel, the aspects like of this pure awareness. How would that be to live like this? Like that curiosity could not allow me to remain in that same state like years ago. And that was really my focus. And when we focus in one direction, it's actually a lot easier. Like we are guided.
Yeah, no multitasking in your life then.
Oh, no. No, just one thing at a time.
So how do your family and friends relate to the changes that you've made over the years?
Well, I'm living really in that way. Let's describe it, that I don't even have the need. I don't really feel any particular needs that I need to fulfill, and I don't have the need of even meeting with friends like I would used to do, just maybe socialize. I don't have really the need of socializing because I feel so complete with myself, so happy that occasionally, obviously I do. So it's not like I'm isolated from anyone, not at all, but I don't arrange those things. My family is probably aware up to a point, I guess, but I don't think, I mean, they're in a completely different consciousness. And I don't think they would be able to even understand what I'm actually sharing here. But in terms of eating, for example, that aspect, they respect that. Like when I go to visit them, they respect that. And they would ask me, like, if they prepare something, if my sister would prepare something, she would ask me, so would you like any of this? And if I say, no, I'm actually okay, that's absolutely fine. So this is very helpful because it just gives me that sense of freedom that there's no any sort of demand from me. Yeah, so my friends, for example, they know also in some way like what kind of lifestyle I'm living. Obviously, this is new to them. So they ask actually lots of questions because some of them are actually curious, because this is obviously something that they can probably still not even imagine, because if someone is still on the let's call it traditional diet, it probably is difficult to imagine, and I totally understand this. I respect that. I don't really expect anyone to understand this. But everything really flows the way that, like even when I start just maybe having a short conversation, even going to a shop, it just flows. And of course, sometimes when it comes from the conversation that, oh, is that all you eat? Sometimes it's a joke, and so that's actually all I need, just fruits. So obviously this is always, some sort of surprise. And, it's, I find this actually quite, I don't know. So, I mean, it is great, actually. I feel great in a way that I can even share something like this.
Yeah, I guess that was my next question, was have you actually inspired any of your family or friends to actually take on this lifestyle or to change their eating habits? You look like a shining example of health. And so...
Yes, this is something I've noticed over the years, like even with my family in Poland. I always offer them, like whenever I eat something, some fruits, or prepare like a very simple fruit salad, I would always ask them and offer that I can make more if they want to share with me. Most of the times they are very happy, and they actually adapted some of the fruits. Children particularly, they are so open. They actually, very often, children can actually help grown-ups to really open to new experiences. Children absolutely love, because it's new also to them. They absolutely love it. And they love also the fact that I let them to choose the fruits that they want to actually pick. So it's not like parents would maybe think, oh, you can eat this and that. No, they actually have the choice. And says, what would you actually have in this meal? I said, you can choose which ones. So they love it. They absolutely love that. And some of my friends, they sometimes even contact me because they experience something, they don't know how to interpret this, how to really understand what to do with something. So they know. Or sometimes, like my sister actually is surprising me because she would just send a few photos of fruits. Like I'm not even sending anything because I don't want anyone to feel that maybe I'm somehow imposing on them. I don't want to do that. But actually this happens the way around. Because she knows how I live, she would just send like a really beautiful selection of fruits. Look what I bought today, in the market. I thought, wow, that's amazing. So it happens. It happens. Yeah. And I can see that. I think the energy is really, the light is like, the light is amazing, and the light is so powerful and strong, and it's just spreading.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so what I'd like to do is open it up again for the rest of the audience to ask you any more questions. And then when they've asked those questions, then we'll talk about the 90-day process for everybody. So, okay, so let's do that. See if, has anybody got any more questions for Kasia?
Yeah, I do. I'd like to ask about taste. You miss certain tastes like salty, oil, spicy. How do you deal with that?
Now, yeah. So now this was really from the past. Salt was probably one of the most difficult ones. Salt and probably fat. I mean, fat avocado actually. Avocado was the last thing that my body was still just addicted really in some way. That's basically, like, being completely honest, that's really what the addiction was still present in some way. And salt, yes, salt, it was something that it was very deeply ingrained in me for all my life, and again, not being aware of that. And I only found out actually not that long time ago, probably just a few years ago, where that actually came from. So as I mentioned, originally I come from Poland, and I was in a very religious family. It was a Catholic family. And I don't know about any other religions, but in the Catholic religion, and at least it was the way I experienced, bread and salt were considered as like the symbols of life. And they would be present in many very sort of sacred ceremonies. Like the priest would bless, for example, bread and salt on Easter. A couple that would be married, when they were coming back home from the church, they would be welcomed in their home with a small loaf of bread and a small bowl of salt. They were the symbols. And obviously, when that comes in such a deep way from a very early age, this was so deeply ingrained for all my life. And also plus the fact that I've experienced actually all those salty meals, including fermented fruits, like fermented fruit, particularly sauerkraut. It was always there, like in huge amounts. So I basically experienced all my life with that. And I found actually salt more addictive than even sugar. Like it took me, like with sugar, it was like, as I shared at the beginning, one moment and that was all. With salt, it took me some time actually to overcome this. But eventually, like now I'm not using obviously any of those, and I cannot imagine.
I'm talking about natural salt, like vegetables, like tomato and pepper, even that, or avocado. I'm not talking about the artificial. So how do you feel need to eat tomatoes and?
Sometimes actually I recently bought tomatoes because it was more really because I saw in a shop, the small independent shop, I saw tomatoes that my sister used to grow when I was living with my family. There was like one particular type of tomatoes, and they're actually really nice, not very watery tomatoes. So this feels more like having an apple, basically. But I know I'm just experiencing now when the season is on, and that's going to be just the experience, really. But like peppers, I don't feel any need of eating peppers. I don't have any need, I don't feel any need of having an avocado. Like if I think actually of eating an avocado, it just feels too heavy. Like I already get the message from my body. No, I don't like. Avocado actually doesn't have any particular taste. Like the taste of avocado, it's a bit blunt.
It's the heaviness. It's the heaviness.
Exactly. Yeah. So if like fruits that still resonate with me in some way are those that also have this beautiful fragrance. Not all of them, of course, but some of them. But also the colors, like. Papaya, for example, it's one of them. Mango. But with papayas, like for example, the big papayas, again, they're too big really for me now. Like I would maybe have, half of the papaya, but eating the whole papaya, if it's big, it's just too big really. So
actually you just eat sweet all the time. You don't feel like eating like something salty or something else. It's okay, just the sweet.
Yes, like I was growing celery, but I was curious really actually of growing the celery, not eating actually so much, but actually growing celery, because I was growing also lettuces. I was actually teaching locally here workshops just to really share and support those who really want to implement more sort of healthy lifestyle, just for them to swap with certain maybe cooked foods and just going and experiencing more just the real raw natural. So I would grow the lettuces myself, using like reusing boxes, so recycling them. So helping to recycle, and at the same time, growing at home. So I would take those lettuces with me. I would have some of them like, small like microgreens, and I would basically share with them. So there's like a local community that I support, and I share basically with them sometimes. I would just go there and, for example, create. So we would create a meal together, like fruit-based, obviously. So it was more really the curiosity of growing and just to experience that, so I could share that experience and also guide them how they could do that.
So yeah, but parsley and what did you say? I've forgotten. They're a bit lettuce. They're a bit salty.
Not parsley, celery.
Celery. That's what you were saying.
I was growing celery as microgreens, as sort of small plants, not really the big ones, but like small ones. And actually, I really like the smell, because celery has got really nice, beautiful smell. So the smell was really beautiful. I loved it. Like the smell actually was more enjoyable for me than actually having the need of tasting that even.
Okay, so you're saying that with time you don't really need all these tastes and spices and salty, and a gentle sweetness of fruits is enough. You don't need all these strong tastes anymore.
No, those actually strong tastes are not really supportive. Like the stronger the plant is, the smell or the touch, like for example, nettles. Some plants like have really strong taste. The more stronger the taste, the more toxic actually they are.
Reddish, yeah. Garlic.
Garlic, yeah, that's a great. Or onion, like we cry. There is a reason why our eyes cry. The onion communicates. Yeah, so those are definitely, I mean, those things, like I really stopped that actually several years ago. So those things, like I could not even imagine, like probably even not touching them completely. They don't resonate with me at all.
So you get refined.
Yes, this is what happens when we really approach that consciously. When we take time, when we observe, we will be guided. That was the guidance I received. Just really flowing into that. Just with ease and joy. This is really what, like, if I could recommend something, go with that transition with ease and joy. Just enjoy the process, because that's all our life. There is no need to rush with anything. The now is just infinite. That's what all we ever experience. There's nothing else. And if we are purely in the now, everything is perfect, just the way it is. Like it's happening right now. Do we want to change anything right now in this experience? No. It's perfect. It's beautiful as is. That's life.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question, if possible.
Yeah, of course.
Really some questions. Kasia, thank you very much. I was wondering, could you elaborate a little bit more about living with loss of nature? And also, since you said that you have made some changes in your life, could you talk a little bit about what changes you did with your professional life, for example? And if you feel it helped you with your progress in living more pranically.
Yeah, thank you, Vanessa, for the question. That's actually a great question about living with the basic laws of nature. So the first thing I really want to share is that we are nature. Very often we can also sometimes see when people share, when they express something, is like they would say, be in nature, connect with nature, but we are also nature. So the first thing really is to become aware that we are not separated from nature in any way. We are oneness. We are living here on this planet as oneness, like one existence, and we are part of that. So, like in practical life, obviously for those who live in cities, this is not supportive. And I understand totally. I'm still living in a small town. I spent 20 years in London, so obviously I know what it's like, what was like, and I was really drawn and guided to change that, because I just knew it wasn't supportive for me. So like the one, like that obvious sort of thing is to really be that nature, which also means like be in nature as much as possible and really absorb that nature in all aspects. So like even with things, I'm going to share literally a few tips that really support the physical body, particularly in the summer, when it's warm, when the weather basically allows, the weather conditions, is to be in direct connection with the ground, with Mother Nature. The energy of the earth is extremely healing for the human body. And it's literally, we can feel this when we take off our shoes. Like, for example, when I go to the beach, I walk barefoot. And I would literally walk just to have that direct connection. This can be also experienced on grass or like any piece of the ground that the soil that is available to us. But also be surrounded among trees, or the plants, the living plants. But also bring that in our homes as much as possible. So even growing some greens, some plants, flowers, switch to a completely natural way of living. So all the artificial material things, including clothing. Like, for example, I could not imagine wearing anything that is artificial and touching directly my skin, because my body will absorb that. That also includes what we put and apply on our skin. So I don't use anything apart from water, just literally pure water and nothing else. If someone feels still the need of using soap or shampoo, I would consider, to go for like really the most organic, the better, or the natural way, to really eliminate, anything that that doesn't feel natural. But also what I mentioned before, like mentally switching from the external world, information, from even Wi-Fi, because those things are not really supportive for our body. And the more we are literally, like if we observe how animals live, nature really is a wonderful teacher for me. I love really going for walks, exploring and observing animals. Like I love sometimes really sitting on the beach and just watch all the seagulls. It's just fascinating. And I could see at some point all the surfers, they're actually doing exactly the same thing what the seagulls. Like they try to catch the waves and just flow with them. I mean, this is amazing. The lifestyle of birds. When I used to live in London, I would go, because I lived actually in Richmond, so when Richmond Park, the biggest part where there was about 600 deer. So I would sometimes go and just really look at them, like how they were really exploring life. And they would just live with such ease. Like you would never see them rushing anywhere. Like no way. Like they would take time with everything. I remember one morning, I've actually witnessed how they were bathing, in the small pond. I mean, this was amazing to see that. If we look at how birds sometimes, take a bath, or I don't know, geese or ducks, how they would enjoy that. This is just beautiful. Or how birds would respond to fruits, for example. They would never touch fruits that are unripe. Like they know by instinct what is good for them.
Yeah.
And quite often we can observe and we can literally learn from animals. In terms of fasting, we can literally learn from animals how they respond when they don't feel like eating. If they are wounded, if they are ill, in some way they would refuse to eat. Even if we put the most delicious food in front of their nose, they would not touch it. Yeah, so there are many aspects, but I think the main one, what I feel, is to really become aware that we are not separated from nature. We are nature.
Mm.
We are part of that. But at the same time, there's actually one aspect that is literally coming to me to share, that is also to remember that to respect all forms of lives in this existence, because we are only guests here. We don't own this planet. We are only here for a short time to have that human experience. We are guests and we need to really respect the laws of nature. Because if we imagine, if we are invited somewhere, we're just guests. We respect wherever we are, and we need to do that as well. So that also means to really return to this natural, supportive way of living.
Mm.
Living as nature and as nature intended. So if we observe nature, we are part of that nature, and this is just the natural way of living, and including eating as well. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, really. And I've done some observation also with animals and fasting, and sometimes I grow some fruits, strawberries, and I noticed that when they are getting ripeness, then I have to watch out for birds because they will come and try to get them from me. And also deers, I have experience with them because I was planting celeries. And I wanted to make juice of them, but I could never do that because the deer were just jumping over the fence and getting them. They were they liked it very much. I think it was their favorite food. They would just eat the celery for some reason.
Yeah, something related with them, definitely. Yeah. I'm sure it was good quality as well. That's a good.
Yes, I was growing it by myself with no chemicals on the land. So. But one thing for myself, even though I've been, and you talk about, you feel that you still need to clean your body. And I feel I've done a lot of stuff, but still one thing that for me, it's a little bit of shame because I wanted to be going out in nature a little bit more, but I live in a cold country. And I still feel that I'm a very cold person. For example, today it's a hot day. And if I was going to shake your hand, and then you would feel I'm a very cold person. And today I was introduced to an old lady, and I was I also almost felt very ashamed because she was a hot person, good body temperature, and I was younger, but I was very cold. So still some cleaning to do, I guess. But do you feel that it takes long time to get to a point where we can function as part of nature in a way that I would be able to go out barefoot? Even in the summer, it's difficult for me to go outside barefoot, for example.
Yeah, so the self-cleansing time, it's not a quick fix. I would not set any expectations. Like if I can suggest anything, I would not set any expectations how long something is going to take, because in fact, we don't know. The body knows. It might take some time for the body to actually eliminate what is no longer needed there. And however long it takes, please allow that time. But very important, something that you shared that you felt ashamed. There is no need to feel ashamed because of anything. Anything. And this is actually very important, because that's also not supportive for you to feel, because you are judging obviously yourself. There is no need for that at all.
I'm just very conscious of how people with, it's the first meeting with that person and I'm very cold, and I'm just very conscious of that, and it's difficult, of course it's cold and you want to be outside, but we have to sit inside because you just feel you cannot bear with it.
Yes, I understand. So when the body is detoxing, this creates that feeling, that coldness. So this is in some way, I would say, natural. It's just the way it is. But also what I've experienced, and I've also heard this from other people, like when the body is transitioning more on operating naturally on prana energy, we would actually perceive the temperature in a different way than we experienced before. But this will be more in a way that we won't experience, and I've actually experienced that, particularly with, I would say, hot temperatures, that I didn't feel they were actually hot to me. And I could go easily on long walks, like being exposed almost to the sunshine in a temperature of 30 degrees, and I would just feel amazing. And I heard this also from other people, this sort of similar opinion, that the body adapts the temperature in a different way. But I also know from my own experience and from many other people also, that the feedback that I receive, that when the body is still detoxing, we will feel basically that coldness. And no, this is like, if you want to, I would not avoiding going outside. I would just put another layer of, or maybe even like however you want to wrap, just wrap the way you feel warm and comfortable. And I would go outside. I would really not pay any attention to any potential comments, because people can comment in any way. We cannot control this, but it is up to our ability how we respond to anything that comes to us. And this could be like letting like the cloud passing in the sky. People can say whatever they feel, and that's absolutely fine, yeah? But that should not really impact us.
Yeah.
Because at the same time, there's no need to explain to anyone what you are experiencing and why you actually feel that.
Yeah, I understand it. It's just myself, I hate being cold, and I've been cold many years now. Or it's not just about being cold, it's just not being able to adapt to temperature outside. If it's very hot, then I'll be the opposite. But today it was just a normal day and I was feeling very cold, and it's just my own judgment. So
Yeah, this is the judgment. So I would observe that. I would look into that, where this is coming from. Like, when did you feel judged in life? Like, what is the first experience you had of that judgment? And it's going to bring something.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Did anyone else have any more questions? Okay, Kasia, let's move on then, and let's talk about your what products and services that you offer to people.
So at the moment, actually, this online program, it's still happening. It's the last 30 days. So I call it 29 Holistic Detox program. So that's an online program, which really involves supporting the body on all levels. So the holistic approach really allows the entire system to heal, to clean. So starting from the physical body, but of course not only. We've already discussed that we are actually not the body, we are not the mind, but we have the body. And obviously the body is very important. In fact, that's probably the longest experience. The body is only the experience, but I think it's probably the longest experience in this human form, because we receive that body at the very start, and then we just return the body when it's time to leave. Yeah, so that's the longest experience probably. And it's very important that the body is supported, and it's basically helping us. However, there is so much more to experience in that holistic program than just supporting the body, the physical body, to clean and heal itself. But let me maybe just share in a very short way what I suggest, like how I would approach it, what really worked for me. Like, this is really sharing my experience, but I also know from other people's experiences what really worked in a remarkable way for them. That the easiest for the body, when we really want the body to cleanse and heal itself, is to support with juicy, high water content fruits, and maybe simple salads. Like, this is really optional, but if that resonates, adding perhaps the non-sweet fruits that we've mentioned here before, like tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, lettuces, celery. That's probably the things I would suggest. If someone still has the need of adding some fats, I would recommend maybe exploring avocado, because that's the easiest, and it just comes in the form of fruit as well, so it doesn't require any processing. So this is also like maybe even responding to the last question, like living as nature. It also is eating as nature. So in nature, we only find whole fresh fruits. There are no juices or smoothies. We won't find a plant that we would go to and we would pick up a jar of juice or a smoothie, because it doesn't exist. Yeah, so this is already man-made product. That's what I call, yeah. So this is already processed. So I really suggest to be nature, really be nature fully, and just go for that nourishment that nature creates and delivers, and the way it delivers. So the only liquids that I'm familiar of is water and coconut water. Yeah, so I feel that this is really supportive for the body to go really as nature intended. And of course, exploring, and this is very individual. Like, I really invite everyone to explore and experience days when we don't eat, so the body doesn't need to digest anything. The food doesn't need to be assimilated, utilized, so the body is free and can focus on all its energy on cleansing, repairing whatever needs to be repaired in the body, and healing itself. This is really allowing the body to do the work, because only the body knows how to heal itself. And so this is really the start of the program. And I also have a booklet available with all the information that is included. There are also simple meals. I also explain how to combine the fruits together, what is really the supportive, the optimal way. It's all very, very simple. So once we really introduce all that, we then move on really working with the emotions, observing the emotions, and that's usually when the emotions come up. Because when we change the way of eating, the emotions always come up. They are present and they communicate with us. So we really dedicate, as you know, obviously, because you are experiencing that program. So we dedicate quite a lot of time and focus to really work with the emotions, how to really observe them, how to overcome certain food addictions, the old habits, because this is all coming. Yeah. So this is a perfect opportunity to really work with that. Take this easy, and also just do this slowly. And then naturally it comes. So I'm a bit reluctant of using that word spirituality, but I think it is the easiest way probably to explain. I think the word stuff became overused in many ways, but this is really what I shared before. It's really recognizing who we really are, like aligning with the self, with the divine, that because we are the direct expression of the creation. The divine is present in every aspect of being. So it's really returning to that natural state that we are, and really rediscovering all aspects of who we really are, and allowing it just slowly to really come to us. So we can really express this the way it really feels natural. So all that requires really very much focusing on being conscious, like being really present, and letting go of everything that is not supportive for us. So this is not really about learning anything new. It's really rather removing and letting go of the old programming, the unsupportive conditioning, perhaps even some past traumas, whatever we experienced in the past, but it's still very much alive in us. This is not supportive because it usually comes with some emotions. So this is really working consciously on all levels, not only cleansing the physical body. This is very important, but that's why the holistic approach, because we are beings, as we know, we are just not having this body. There is so much more. And it's very important to approach all the aspects. And this is a process. This is not a quick fix. It's really not something that we can do in a very quick way. And again, I really invite everyone to enjoy that process without any judgment, without any criticism. And I really feel it is possible to experience detox in a joyful way. If we really approach it that way, that whatever the new experience comes, whatever the emotions is communicating with us, there is something great behind that is waiting for us, and it's going to liberate us. It's going to help us to expand in some way, just into another, I'm not going to call stage of consciousness because there are no stages, but just expand more. There is what we may call like, those challenges, but they are not challenges. They are actually great opportunities, amazing opportunities for us to become aware what is on the other side. There is some great liberation for us to experience. Something that we can only look forward to actually find out what it is. I don't know if I explained that enough. Obviously, I would suggest maybe to also go on my website and just read more details. But we have a private Facebook group dedicated for that program, where I post and I share, maybe not every single day, but at least a few times a week. Everyone who participates in that program can also share, ask questions, and I really invite and just recommend to be present in that group. Not only that something comes from me, but from all the participants, because this is again co-creating that experience together. I'm only there just to let's say guide and support in some way, but everyone really contributes. Everyone is unique. Everyone is going to experience that in a different way, in a unique way, very individual way. And that's also the beauty, because everyone can bring that unique experience and really be the inspiration and the empowerment for everyone in the group. We have also a weekly Q&A live calls where we gather every week for as long as it is needed, like we are doing this right now. I feel that, I don't have the feel of time at all. Like time doesn't exist. It's just now. So that's basically how I approach, like, this is my priority, that's my focus. I'm there as much as I can, be present and offer my support. So in those live calls, any questions, any shares, like anything that comes up, like whatever you experience in life, that's basically the live call and the space where we can basically experience that. And of course, any questions that may come up during the week, that group basically is available there.
Perfect. So I've actually been participating for the last, well, since the 3rd of July, and it's taken me onto a very different level. I was doing daily enemas at one point, and I stopped doing those because I started eating whole fruits instead of doing mainly juices and smoothies. And I changed on Kasia's recommendation. I changed to eat whole fruits, which then meant that the digestion and the elimination was so much better that I could actually stop the daily enemas. There was also, I was overeating salads, and another tip that Kasia said was to add fruits into my salads, and that completely changed me overeating, because I would eat a salad and then crave something sweet after it. But by introducing fruits into the salad, it actually stopped that craving. So I could actually, you know, it just changed everything about my eating patterns. And then the other thing I've introduced and really benefited from, I was doing only dry fasting and then feasting on fruits and smoothies and juices mainly. And I introduced water fasting, and that has again, it's been a very different experience, much more gentle, and I'm mainly water fasting throughout the week now, whereas I would just do 1 day a week of dry fasting usually, and then maybe once a quarter I would introduce 3 days of dry fasting, and then every so often I'd do a lot more extended dry fast. But now I'm actually finding that rather than sort of binge eating outside of dry fasting, I'm actually holding a really nice stable place where I'm mainly just drinking water, and it's sipping. Again, that was another thing that Kasia introduced, was just maximum of 500 mils of water an hour, but sipping it really, really slowly throughout that hour. And I noticed that I don't need to permanently go to the toilet and pee it all out. It's actually being absorbed, and my urine has changed. It's like syrupy and frothy, and so obviously lots of stuff is coming out, and then the same the other end as well. But if everybody wants to find out more of that, I'm hoping that Kasia will happily post. We did a video, a Q&A video, didn't we? Yes. Of where I've gone through my process so far with Kasia on the 90-day and explained a lot of those changes. And then she's also done another video of what I've experienced with the emotional side of things, because she's done her compassion key process on me and shifted big shifts of emotional stuff that had kept me very, very stuck in a sort of recycling process. But she managed to sort of unlock those in the sessions with the compassion key. So we've done a video of those as well. So hopefully Kasia will be happy to share those. And like I say, you can find more details on her website, on all of it, I'm sure.
Yeah, Karen. So we'll put, of course, all the links and all possible connection options to below this video once we upload it. And it would be really, really nice to see all your testimonials and all the videos that you have just mentioned. But anyway, guys, so all the information in relation to getting in touch with Kasia will be available below this video, and you can use this opportunity to come to her, to contact her, to sign up for her programs. So Kasia, so this program is going on right now, so it's going to be going on for another month or so, something like that.
So this program that is currently running is going to end in September, and I'm going to start the next one in October, on the 2nd of October. So it's going to be from the 2nd of October until the end of December. So just the end of the year.
Wow.
My intention is to have those programs available 3 times a year. So the next one will end in December. In January, I'm planning to have a 30-day just fruit detox, probably just a year. And then again, it's going to start in February, March, April, and then May it's going to be off because I want to have also a break between.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And then it's going to be the summer edition, and then again the autumn edition.
Okay. Okay, and if people want to register, can they just do it online on your site?
Yes, yeah. So at the moment, I'm still offering this program for literally with 50% discount.
Wow.
Until the 18th of September. That offer is still available. So I would like, if that resonates with anyone, I would maybe just, suggest to have a look. I mean, have a look, don't jump into that. There's no need. There's no need to rush into anything. Feel first and also question if this is something that would resonate, would support you at this stage, how it really feels. So those videos probably would be helpful with Karen. Let me, Arik, if I might, literally just for a very short time, just respond to what Karen just shared in her experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have time. No problem.
During this 90-day program, I offer one free session of the compassion key process, and this is this process. It's a basic modality that I used that really helps more working with the mind, actually. Helping the mind to work with the old programming, the conditioning, any traumas, any way, really, in any aspect of life that we feel it's not going the way that we want to really experience, then something doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
So that process is really amazing. And I also offer individual sessions of what I call the inner guidance. The guidance is so profound, so beautiful, and so powerful at the same time that until we really experience, I'm aware it's probably difficult to actually imagine what it could be like. This is also something I've mentioned, Karen, that I would be very honored to also share with you fasting group if there's interest, if that resonates. Maybe offer a slightly longer guidance. It would really allow go more individually and just really experience some guidance in life in a practical way, because it can also support the way that it can release even physical pains, like reaching the matter of 10-15 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really very, very profound. And this is what I mentioned before, that this is the inner guidance I completely rely on. And this is really what comes purely from the self.
Yeah.
Awareness.
Yeah. Kasia, so what you meant is that you wanted to do another webinar talking about this, specifically about this subject, right?
Yeah, I mean, really experiencing.
Ah, okay. So, and could we do that in this group setting? Like, okay. Yeah. That would be really, really interesting. Absolutely.
This is what I received, basically. This is what I received, like when it came to me, literally the day after when I shared, the first info that I was preparing for you. And this inner guidance, the next day, it just arrived. I've experienced actually that guidance myself. And I thought, I just sat and I just shared this. And I said, let's just share this, because when that came to me, I know it came for a reason.
Yeah.
So this is
absolutely.
Talking so much about it, but literally experiencing. And I would be just so, it would be my joy really to maybe even for those who are open and want to experience like short experience of this individual inner guidance. So it could be just in a very individual way.
That's amazing. Yeah. I'll definitely be. Sorry.
So for everyone, once we experience someone actually experiencing this also has impact on us as well directly.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, Kasia. So I'll be in touch with Karen, and then we can schedule. We'll see when we have a spot available for that. Yeah, absolutely.
Whenever it feels right, there is no any sort of expectations of time. Just whenever it feels right.
Thank you so much, Kasia. And tell me, so probably the last question. So if someone gets on your site and then if they are interested to register for your course, for your program, but they still have some maybe doubts, maybe questions. So can they contact you personally and solve it and get the information, or how do you work in this realm?
Absolutely. I offer always for everyone, even unless someone really has got clarity, and there are people who sign up without even saying anything. They literally sign up straight away. But I always suggest that, and I offer a short call. I feel that, I mean, unless there is maybe enough for someone just exchanging some message, that's great.
Yeah.
But I always offer a short call, about 20-minute call. So we can really schedule a call and just talk, discuss anything that is needed.
And on your site, you also have this instructions how to arrange this call and personal conversation with you.
Yeah, so to arrange such a call, it's probably the easiest tool. It's actually on Facebook, on Messenger.
Okay. So people just have to go on Facebook, message you, and then you will schedule.
Yes, that would be the best way. And we could use Messenger for that as well. So it's like the one tool that basically gives that opportunity.
Yeah, I see. And if a person doesn't have Facebook account, then probably you do have anything like contact us on your site or something like that, so that they contact you there.
Yes, so I use a very similar program to Zoom. It works exactly the same as Zoom. It's called Ring Central, but it's basically a copy of Zoom. So create basically a link.
Yes.
And we could speak like we are speaking.
Very good. So they can arrange it in case they don't have Facebook, then they can arrange it through your site. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. At the moment, I just want to mention something. At the moment, my email is not responding because I had to move my domain and hosting to another company.
Okay.
And in that migrating state, that state is still not completely resolved. The website is still there, but the email, for some reason, it took a longer time. And I don't have access basically to emails right now. So probably until Tuesday, I would not email because I'm not going to be able to respond to that. And I might not be able to access the emails I received before. So I will wait until Tuesday or Wednesday next week, and then it's going to be safe basically to email.
Yeah. Okay, guys.
Otherwise, I was just going to jump in and say, if anybody does want to Kasia to contact them direct, and obviously post in the WhatsApp group or post directly to me or Arik if you prefer, and then we'll get the message over to Kasia.
Yes, absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. And then, guys, so those who are watching and those who are in the audience, just take advantage of this huge discount on this program, and it's going to be valid until which day, Kasia?
18th of September.
So that's basically about 8 or 9 days from now. So it's really good to take advantage of that. Okay, Karen, so shall we wrap it up, or do you have anything else to say or to ask?
No, I think wrapping it up is a good idea now, Arik. Thank you.
Okay, very good. So guys, again, so you will find all the contact information below the video. Thank you very much, Kasia. It was really enlightening and inspiring. Thank you for sharing with us your wisdom, your energies, your honesty. And yeah, I really enjoyed the webinar. And thank you very much, Karen. You were an amazing interviewer. And yeah, and I look forward to seeing you, when we arrange the next webinar with Kasia. We'll probably need lots of help from your side. So we'll talk about it. We'll keep in touch.
Perfect. Thank you, Arik. It's been a blessing.
Thank you very much. Okay, guys. Good night.
Let me just my gratitude shortly, because I feel so grateful for what we are experiencing now, co-creating now. It's just my absolute joy and bliss to be here with all of you beautiful beings. Thank you so much, Arik, for creating this space, for all your beautiful energy. Like, your energy is just amazing and so pure, and I just feel, I feel blessed, literally. And
thank you so much. It's really touching. Thank you.
Creating that space, like everything that you do, this is absolutely amazing, and it's literally just bliss to connecting with such beautiful beings. And thank you, Karen, for your initial idea and really like starting all this. That's how those amazing experiences come. Like they come in the right moment. So thank you so much for all of that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, guys. Bye-bye.